All right, I am so sorry about what's going on. I'm not sure it's mine or was it Matt's or is it Instagram. This actually has not happened to me before, but I have seen this happen to other people like Fat Joe. But I got Josh Peck on here. Bring him on here.
Damon,
What's up, man? How you doing?
my guy, how are you?
I'm good. Why does it say Shortcake?
Shua is the latter portion of Joshua, which is my
Oh,
actual name.
okay, got it. Because I'm dyslexic. It starts confusing me with Shua and and Josh.
My handle, you're right. It's very selfish to the dyslexic community, and I'm gonna completely rethink what I've done so far.
Listen, I want to give, we were having some technical difficulties with my buddy Matt on the last one, and now it seems to be okay. So this may have been his poor connection, but I'm really happy you're on, and I'm going to explain to an intro to you to my family who should know you unless they're crazy because I know you were already in one of my books. I was already on your podcast and obviously we follow you and everything else. So allow me to just introduce you. Of course, you're a dad and a husband and an actor and a comedian. You got your first start in comedy by performing stand-up at Caroline Comedy Club. For the Audrey Hepburn Foundation. Grew up in New York City with your mom, just like me. Starred in the Amanda Show and Drake and Josh. I had a more serious role though in the remake of Red Dawn, killing it, getting it in. Was an original Vine star and was featured in obviously The Power of the Broke, and has a new Disney Plus show in the works, a reboot of Turner and Hooch, and has a popular podcast called Curious with Josh Peck, and that I was on. Really fascinating life, and we're at the day and age right now where people have to get creative, and you never really went out there and had the traditional education and job and work your way up the corporate ladder. It was purely your talent.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for being on my podcast because when you get Daymond John on the pod, what a get! I mean, we're live. We're
Yeah,
live.
yeah, yeah. We're live. What's going on?
When you get Daymond John on the pod, you start talking to your producer. You say, which outlets are going to pick this up? Are we going to leak some of this interview to People Magazine? So I appreciate your support always, man. But I've always, and maybe you can identify with this, growing up with just my mom and I, we've always been hustling in some respect. And when I growing up watching someone like my mom who was constantly having to create financial stability and while playing the part of both parents and raising her son, I was kind of getting a master class in adaptability and pivoting and doing the best with what you have. And thus, when I got into this, crazy business, I was really lucky to have success early on. And then it kind of grew into different sort of avenues and channels. And I was able to embrace the social media. But you're right, it never was a traditional direct path. I've always had to see what made sense for that time.
But how were you able to pivot so much? Because I know there are people watching right now who like, I studied to do just this. I went to work in a corporation or I opened up my own business, and now look where the world is. I don't know what to do. And
Mm.
I'll even give people an example of pivoting. When Vine was out, you were somebody that a lot of people really looked up to on Vine, but then Vine went away. And a
Right.
lot of people that were on Vine, they lost their followers, their groups, because they had no way to find them. It's not like you had an email and say, hey, by the way, check me out on this platform. And then you had so many other platforms that came out, simultaneously or after that. You had to decide whether it's Snapchat, whether it's now TikTok, or whether it's Instagram. And still, at this point, you still have almost 10 million people who follow you. How did you pivot like that? And what can you tell other people that they can do that if you can do that, they have to think about doing these type of things?
I guess, I was listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast the other day, and he was talking to a friend of mine, Ryan Holiday, and they were talking about what their core competency was. And as it related to the market over the last 2 months and how they were both sort of regretful that they didn't sort of see this massive sort of dip and huge rise in the market happen. And they had wished they had been more prepared to either short some stocks or sell some stocks. But then they asked each other, but is that your core competency? Could you have really been prepared in a situation like this? And their answer was no. Similarly, my core competency is creating content. And so no matter sort of the avenue or the channel, I know that whether it's making a 6-second video for Vine or a 10-minute video for YouTube or something for Instagram, it might, I definitely might not be as prolific on one platform to the next, but I've done it long enough to where I know that if I find something funny or provocative or relatable, there's a good chance that others will. It's a beautiful thing that I've learned over the last couple of years of like, we're not as special as we think, and that's a good thing, right? So I'm building my content for an audience of one. It has to move me first. I can't reverse engineer and think, what would Damon like, or what would the audience like? Because inevitably, it always kind of falls flat. It feels sweaty. But if I really get a chuckle out of it and think it's good, there's a good chance that other people have a similar taste to mine. So I've always stayed true to that, is making stuff for an audience of one and hoping it relates to an audience of 1,000.
I think that's powerful. I think that's important. I think that people can learn from that, because a lot of times we overthink it. We look at everybody else, go, well, they're really good at this, they're really good at that. How can I become good at that, when we're not thinking about what we truly are good at? I think that is my understanding as well. My core competency is not that I was a great designer or I was a great business person, anything else. My core competency was that I think because I was an only child. You were an only child, right?
Yeah.
I was always looking for a friend, right? So I would bring home stray dogs, stray kids, and stuff like that. And my core competency was that I love to corral the ideas of others and say, that's good, that's bad, but trust that a lot have had it. And if I vibe with them, I would hope build something. So, and that's even in my company, when I say to the younger people in my company, listen, we're in a jam right now. It's no secret. You guys have ideas? Because a lot of people come in the room like they're the smartest person in the room. And then if you're the smartest person in the room, you're the only person who's never going to learn anything. And I think that happened initially, me becoming a big question asker. That's why I'm trying to learn from you right now, and I want to pass it on to my people. I remember, I think I was in the 3rd grade or something, and because I'm dyslexic, again, going back to that, obviously, I got some issues. I came home today to my mother one day, and she said, did you know the answer? Because the teacher told me you don't ask any questions in class. I said, Mom, I'm not going to ask questions in class. She said, why? I said, because if I don't know the answer and I keep asking questions, don't you think I'm going to look dumb?
Mm.
And she said, well, do you know the answer? I said, no. She said, well, you're a dumb motherfucker now because you don't know the answer.
God bless her. I love it.
Well, you shouldn't be calling a 3rd grader a dumb motherfucker, but...
Been there, Damon.
But at the end of the day, it made me realize that my core competency was to ask, to get information, to absorb it, and then come up with the best decision. And I think that a lot of people right now can learn from that as well.
Can I ask you a question, Damon, of on behalf of the people in the chat? Like, how do you create that culture within your companies to sort of foster the idea of the best idea wins and empower people to feel the confidence to share their insight and their opinion?
Whew. Tough question. Don't think I've been ever asked that before, but I do have the answer. You do have to foster it, and in your companies, you have to understand what is your DNA, what is your morals, what is your mantra. And our company, we're entrepreneurs, and we care about people and the customers first, but we have to run a business. And like I said when I opened up, I happen to be a notable person or celebrity, and people look at me for various other things, but I'm not a Josh Peck. I'm really a businessman with a camera on me, and that's barely it, right? And to get that type of, and what you're talking about is really innovation, to get that type of honesty to get anybody from the mailroom all the way up to the lawyer to somebody else to be able to chime in where it's not really their world, and nobody says, shut up. You're an attorney. You're not in the branding area. You're not in this area. You know, to get that, you have to do two things. First of all, allow them to have an open door policy to be able to speak on what they think. But ask them how are they going to accomplish it. Right? Because a lot of people have these great ideas and then they go, you know, listen, in design, every salesperson that works for you will never say the company didn't buy your stuff because the designs suck. All they'll say is, well, they're waiting for, they don't know if they're buying some other brand and you know what, you should do more of a Bahamas theme and all that. And then they walk over to the designers and go, make a shirt that is attractive to you, make you feel like being in the Bahamas. The designers, to come up with a capsule like that, it took you 10 seconds to say it's going to take them 2 weeks of work to go put that time in to give it back to you. So instead, you go, no, Mr. Salesperson, you think you know everything? You put together a mood board. You put together things. You show me data on why you think Bahamas is really good and stuff like that. And you make a presentation. Just don't walk by and say what you want. Give everybody your job and then do that. And when you do that, what you'll find is there'll be two types of people. There'll be the people that will say, okay, and then they'll take it more serious before they open their mouths, and they'll come better prepared. And then you'll have the other people who go, nobody ever listens to me. Nobody listens to you. You're like, because you had 10 ideas this week, and you didn't help on any of the ideas. So I think that's how you really, really get people to, you know, think outside the box, feel like they're part of the system, but they have to contribute.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's something I love as a devotee, as I imagine many of my friends here are of Shark Tank, watching your feedback to many of the people who are pitching you ideas, which is sometimes you'll honor the idea, and then you'll say, but I'm not sure you're the guy that can deliver it. And
that is so true. Yeah, because when they're giving you the idea, and when people are telling you an idea, you know, it's like me saying, you know, I want to be an entertainer or somebody like you. And I go, well, I just got to get a good agent, and I got to get a good manager, and I got to get a glossy website page and have a good director put together a sizzle reel of me. You would smell right through that. You're like, you don't know what it sounds great.
Yes.
You don't know what you're talking about. You have to go to 2,000 casting calls. You got to do this. You got to do that. So when people come on Shark Tank and say, yeah, you know, only if I had some funding and a great advertisement, then, you know, Damon, I know you can get me into Walmart. And I'm like, no, if I can get you into Walmart and do all that, then FUBU would be Nike, right? It's not that easy to do it. You have to put in the work yourself and have the answers.
Right. God, my dream is to come on Shark Tank and to get all the sharks to agree and come in on my deal. I want 5 sharks behind Josh Peck Inc. Incorporated. I'm still working on the idea. It's got some rough edges.
I got to tell you the honest truth. You don't want 5 sharks behind it, because then you get a huge circle of morons. Everybody's fighting. Right. Everybody thinks you know, I tend to not want to do deals with other sharks because I don't want all of that. Mark Cuban thinks he knows everything. Kevin wants to sue everybody. Barbara just starts rambling on the call. You know, Robert is like, oh, wow, amazing. And like, you shut up. And you just want to get to work. That's why I don't want all of the sharks. But I'm just joking. Every one of them has a very special skill and a very special quality that I am on some of the calls when we are in all deals. And I'm sitting there going, wow, you actually are pretty smart, Barbara or Lori or somebody like that. So it all depends on what you want.
Oh, I bet. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense, because sometimes I love to lead by counsel. And I like to, you know, sort of prepare an idea and offer it up to my situation room of mentors and apostles and smart people and say, what are we thinking? Let's troubleshoot it. But inevitably, to your point, I think you have to have 1 or 2 really smart people who you trust to give you honest feedback. But the buck stops with you, right? Inevitably, It's got to be your instinct.
Absolutely. And shout out, I just saw our boy DJ Vice is on here. He's on here. So what's up, DJ Vice? But that's a good question. You know, like, who does who does somebody like you go to have as mentors? And are they in your business? Are they in other areas like this? Or do you have one or do you have five? I mean, or 20?
I think it's a great question, and not because I'm trying to suck up, because she did give me a quarantine haircut yesterday. But I got to be honest, my wife is such an incredible apostle for me, mostly because, like many relationships, we're so different, and she sees the world in such a different way. She has a great bullshit meter. And Damon, you know me, I like the razzle dazzle.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I I like the schmaltz. And for her, she's great at cutting through it and saying, what are you really trying to say here? And also, when you're lucky enough to have a partner, and it doesn't have to be a spouse, it could be a great business partner, or a best friend who in certain ways knows you better than you know yourself. And because I have a defense mechanism to try to go to the comedy or be big and silly because it's worked for me in the past. But she'll say, I know you, and that's not your taste. You're creating something that you wouldn't watch yourself. And a lot of times she's right. So she's a great advocate for me and helps me see in my blind spots.
I would think that I know that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know that some, or often a lot of entertainers and comedians, they go to a lot of the comedy stores to try out new material,
Mm,
right? And there's always going to be an adjustment on what you do with. It's you're growing, you're learning, you're finding some things you said a year or 10 years ago are not entertaining to you anymore. You're in a different place in your life, and then some new areas you're going, you're trying to, be very vulnerable and show people how stupid you are or funny it is, right? And sometimes it may not be your traditional brand, but you're growing. How
yeah.
many times has, because if you have almost 10 million followers, people love you for a reason and you love them back. I know you do. How many times have you looked to your followers, your community, and they have pulled your coattail and said, I'm not sure, Josh, if this is you, or Josh, I love you need to do more of this.
That's a great question, and you're right. Although I wish they were as nice as you just put it. A lot of times you're just like, that sucks. Hot trash. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's the blessing and the curse of that instant feedback. And, I remember early on when I got into Vine, and this was 2013. So, in many ways, it was still at the emergence of like modern social media. And I was making these videos, getting a good sized audience, but my agent and manager, who come from the traditional world, were kind of giving me a hard time saying, what is this? Like, we're trying to pitch you as this leading man, and you're, being an idiot in your car. And I
Right.
was lucky enough to have a friend who worked, a friend of mine who was one of the people who introduced us, Rami, who worked at The Audience, which was sort of an early social media company.
Sure.
He said, listen, no one knows what this is because it's too early, but having your audience at your fingertips engaged with you and your ability to connect with them every day and for them to give you their feedback is powerful. Keep doing this. And I've always tried to adopt that. And sometimes, like recently, I put up a funny video. It was very quarantine sort of compatible, where I ate like I did when I was overweight for one day. So I kind of showed all my favorite junk foods and cheat meals. And I was like, let me see if I can eat like I did when I was 100 pounds heavier. First of all, it was not the best. I'm pretty sure I put on a quick 15, and the sodium, I was bloating for weeks. But the feedback was, we love this, but also you lost a lot of weight. We love to see what you eat normally in a day, like what your
Right.
healthy eating habits are like. So already I'm like, well, thank you, feedback. Like, already I have my next video.
I think the message in there though is really powerful. You have the agents 2013, everybody's worried. They're going, well, why would people want to see you on the screen here if they can get you for free here? Oh,
Mm.
you're silly. I can't get you as a leading man. And end of the day, you cut right through that and said, what does my customer or what does my follower really want to see? And they want to see me. And I think that reminds me of when we first came out, all the big stores, all the Macy's of the world, they wouldn't, believe it or not, in our generation, believe it or not, they wouldn't buy the goods because they said, well, there's 4 black people on the hang tag, so obviously, and I've heard this, they're going to bring in some type of people going to shoplift, or there may be shootouts in our store. Now,
Wow. Wow.
think about that. A shootout in the store, that means like, hey, yo, you got that pair of 36 over there? I want the pair of 36, man. And then there's a shootout now.
Right.
Right?
At
That's what's going to happen.
Herald Square.
Yeah, over a pair of 36s, or you got the purple and I wanted the blue.
Right.
However, what we realize is that the small mom and pop stores that we always supported, that we if you sold to a Macy's or one of those big guys, they put your stuff on a rack. The kid, anybody that works there, they're busy thinking about college. They're thinking about what girl or guy they like. Nowadays they're on social media. They couldn't care less. They're not selling your clothes. And in the event that they did sell the clothes, Macy's wouldn't reorder for another month or 2 months when, they placed their normal order. But when we dealt with specialty stores, mom and pop stores, right, who were the ones who created us, the ones who stayed with us all the time, what they did was when a kid came into the store, that's a mom and pop store. That's a small business. That's somebody saying, hey, you should check out this food stuff because this is the story about the guys. This is what it's for. This is whatever the case is. And if they sold a shirt or 2 shirts or 10 that day, they called in and reordered that day because they needed that money to go home, and they were living, off of that money, and they were being extremely extreme. They were your biggest ambassadors, right? And that's what you're talking about now. You're talking about that the people right now, anybody you're touching, whoever's listening to us right now, your customer is your biggest ambassador. They're the ones that are walking around to every single person and say, hey, did you check out Josh's thing yesterday? Or did you check out this by Damon, or this by Bombas Socks? And I think that goes back to what people are, being fearful of right now. And they don't realize that the core of who they are is keep talking to their followers, their customers, and being very open what they're going through.
I think that's right on. And when you would have these, because I know, right, you go into a streetwear store and the too cool for school guy from the counter comes around the front. It's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, can you just give me what you're wearing? Because you look so much cooler than I do right now. So
Right.
would you like lace those guys out? Like, would you throw them a t-shirt and some jeans and be like, enjoy this, so that they would like be
Always,
rocking it in the store?
always. If it was a guy, listen, and I think that's a good point, because sometimes it wasn't the owner, but I would say I appreciate your sales and what you've been doing, and here's a piece, because you also don't want somebody to go, oh, I'm not good enough to rock your stuff. I'm just working here. I'm making minimum wage, but now you want to sell to everybody. You come in here big and bad, and you talk to just the owner, and you don't know me. I'm the one on the front line.
Right.
It's almost like window shoppers. We've all been. I don't care who you are, white, black, fat, skinny, tall, whatever the case is. We've all been someplace where somebody neglected us when we were shopping, right? Whether they thought we couldn't own it or something else like that. And I always tell people this: the window shoppers are the best people in the world, because what happens is if I go to the store and I buy something now, I generally don't floss it until I buy it. I mean, that's just my thing. If I like it, I buy it. I don't come out and brag about it, because thank God I have a couple of resources I can do that. But the window shopper that passes by Macy's window, we're just using Macy's. Macy's is a great store, and I'm not nothing against Macy's, but any store. The window shopper that looks in there, that woman who walks in there and says, man, look at those shoes. And they come in there every day and they say, can I try them on, this and that? If you shoo them away, they're going to have resentment. If you don't shoo them away, that window shopper, that's the person that goes back to the old neighborhood or wherever they're from or their job and goes, when I get some money or when my birthday comes, guess what shoes I'm going to buy? And guess where I'm going to buy it from? I'm going to buy it from that Macy's right there on 34th Street. And they talk about it for 10 years.
Yes.
And they are their best advertisers and marketers. And if you just give them a little bit of attention, they will love you to death. If you do not give them attention, you know what they say? I walked in the store, I wasn't good enough for that damn store. They don't respect the community. They don't respect us, so whatever the case is. And they become your person who's going to taint who you are, because if you do that 10 times a day, think about a year how many people you got talking about you in a negative manner.
That's so funny, because about a year ago, I was lucky enough. It was for a video, so I got some help with it. But I wanted to buy my wife a Tesla because we had a new baby, and she's very much like into the environment and also just the ease of the car. We wanted to get the car for our son and whatnot. So anyway, one day I'm with my mom, and I'm such a mama's boy. I'm like, Ma, let's go check out the new Tesla. Like, I think I'm going to surprise my wife with it. Like, come with me. She said, great. Now, my mother, Damon, she's a 75-year-old woman. A
Yeah.
Tesla is
Yeah.
like, meeting an alien.
Right.
So I go into the showroom, and no hate on Tesla. I love my Tesla. Shout out Elon. Congrats on the new baby. But I go to this guy who works there. I said, excuse me, sir. I got this 75-year-old woman here. Can you just show her the car? Couple options. He goes, the cars sell themselves.
Oh.
I said, I realize this, but it's like you're like trying to teach Arabic to a 1-year-old. Like my
Right.
mom has no frame of reference here. Anyway, he was less than accommodating. A month later, I do buy the car. I go to pick it up at Tesla, and who's my agent? Senor, the cars sell themselves. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, Now, granted, they got the sale regardless, even though the salesperson wasn't the nicest. But you better believe I was moonwalking all over that showroom. I was like, guess I was able to buy it, my friend. No big deal. Sure, I'm leasing it, but that's my business.
You know, I I wouldn't give them person to sale, but you're always so pleasant. I mean, I think that I'm a pleasant person. You ever just curse somebody out?
Oh, it's so tempting. But we can't. Anyone in the public
I
eye.
can. I'm a business person. I can do that.
I can't. I mean, I'm always tempted to, but for the most part, no. I hold it back. But I'd love to. I just know it'll end up on
But you
TMZ.
already smile. You're already pleasant. You never say to somebody, "What the fuck did you just say?" You never
Oh,
say anything like that ever.
no, I say it to myself in the car after, and then I lose sleep over it for weeks.
All good. Well, so listen, man. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me, man, and thank you always for enlightening us. And listen, you got some tough questions. You come at it from a different point of view, where a lot of people just ask me the same normal stuff, and it don't make me think as much. So I really, really appreciate it. How's the baby, and what are you doing right now during quarantine?
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I love you, Damon, and we're just hanging out. We're trying to stay, sane and whatnot, and doing lots of walks with my son. And it's a friend of mine said, like, if you don't leave this time in our lives, which is, if you're 85 or you're 5, none of us have experienced anything like this. So he's like, if you
Right.
don't walk away from this having truly learned something and taken advantage of this time, then you will have really missed a great opportunity. So I'm just trying to do all the things that normally I wouldn't do if I was, stuck at home. I'm trying to do some more writing and basically just enjoy my son because, he's 16 months.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, man. So listen, I want everybody to check out Curious with Josh Peck. That's obviously your podcast, and everybody already knows where you're at. They can follow you at not Josh, but Sean. Say
Shua,
some Shua Peck.
you perfect.
All right, man. All the
Much
best,
love,
man.
Damon.
You
Thank you,
got it,
bro.
brother. All right,
Later.
peace.